Today we're continuing the investigation and repair, or perhaps I should say attempted repair maybe, of my 1571 disk drive. So let's do it. Let's power up the system and just show you again what is going wrong, because I think this is an interesting problem. Okay, so let's just power on the drive and power on the 128. Where's the... okay. Now it seems to do something slightly different every time, which is curious. This time it tried to access the disk and the drive light is now stuck on and the motor is continuing to whir. Other times it has done something different. If I type in DS $, I can't because the computer has not actually started. It's obviously doing the reboot for that, and it's just sat waiting. So let's hit return again. No, let's try putting a disk in the drive. Try that without a disk in it. '51 Overflow In Record. Now I've printed out a copy of Ray Carlson's Common Problems and Solutions for the 1571. Includes chips versus symptoms for the standalone 1571 drive. Latest changes and corrections 12/17/2021. So reading through this gives us chips and solutions. Okay, so normal startup sequence is as follows. Power up shows continuous red LED, we have that, and the green status LED comes on and goes out within about 1 second. That happens too. Spindle motor runs for about 3 seconds and then stops. Stepper motor moves the head slightly back and forth, then stops. Okay, and he says, I assume that you've already checked the power supply for its +5 and +12 volt DC outputs. Yes, I have. Note, when connected to a 128, the drive will attempt to auto-boot only if the drive is set to device 8. So, then we go through all the different chips and the possible symptoms. A lot of these do apply, a lot of these don't apply. Okay, so DOS-ROM, U2, right, that's this one, 1571, DOS-ROM. Green LED on steady, spindle motor runs all the time, no movement of the stepper at start-up, no drive access, locks up computer. Not true. SRAM. U9 VIA, that's this one, this big one down here. Normal looking startup but no drive access, although the computer resets the drive when turned on reset and locks up computer, so this is actually possible. Let's just do a heat test. That one is warm, that is definitely warm. That one is warm. It was cold. It was cold. It was warm. It was cold. It was warm. None of these are strikingly hot. So there's no obvious burning chip. These are warm enough that I think maybe we should put heat sinks on them at some point. So where did we get to? U8, U11, that's the disk controller. Now this is interesting. I've highlighted this one. Normal looking startup LEDs and motors, but when the computer boots, the drive can't read the disk and the stepper moves the head to track 0. Subsequent disk accesses show 74 drive not ready error and the green light flashes rapidly. Now this bad IC can corrupt disks. Now it's not doing it now, but I have had this happen. I have seen it. Unfortunately I haven't managed to capture it on camera, but that has definitely happened and I'm definitely suspecting this disk controller, to the extent that I've ordered and bought another one. Okay, I'll give you a link in the description to Ray Carlson's site, which has got this and other documents. So what I'm going to do now is, in my little book of printouts, there we go, I've got poorly printed because it ran out of red or yellow or something. Sam's Computer Technical Service Data 1571 disk drive. And this has a lot of photographs of bits of power supply. But here we have a troubleshooting section. And I think it would be useful to troubleshoot the read circuit. So, insert a disk into the drive and close the door. Diskette must contain several programs and head must be positioned on a track containing information. Well, the head is where it is, so. Now we've got flashing light and a ready prompt, so we can say and there we have it, Overflow In Record. So it seems after the drive has warmed up, it's back to how it was. Okay, and that is on a directory read, and there you go. Now you've seen the other issue. This is when it reads the directory and what it gets back is complete garbage. 20,300 cause free. So the question that we have is, has it read it correctly and the error is in sending the data? Is it not reading the data correctly? What is the problem? Now you can see this is the section that we're going to do. Right. Insert a diskette into the drive, close the door. Check for a logic flow at pins 12 and 13. Sorry, a logic low. Let's make sure I've got the glasses on. At pins 12 and 13 of ICU13. This is ICU13. Pins 12 and 13, this is a 14 pin chip, so this is pin 12. This is pin 13. And for reference, this is pin 14, which is VCC. So that's +5. That's definitely 0, and that's definitely 0. So, okay. If reading is not correct at pin 13, check controller IC U6. If reading is not connected at pin 12, check U11. If readings are correct, well, they are correct. Check for a logic high at pin 11 of U13. Which is 11 is also low. 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 Right. So it could be that this is faulty. This is 266. Now let's see if I've got one of those. They say you should approach each YouTube video with a script, or at least a narrative in mind. But when it comes to this drive, I'm really scratching my head with it. What is wrong? I honestly don't know. Well, it doesn't work, that's obvious. But every time I've started this video, every time I've come to have a look at the drive, it's done something different. And that's whether it's on camera or off camera. One thing it seems to do fairly consistently, and let me just show you in the user's guide, is it produces this error. Error 51, overflow in record. The data to be written in the current record exceeds the record size. Now, this is a write error, but it gives this error on a read. It gives this error trying to read the directory. Although sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it gives a bit of a directory listing and nothing else. Sometimes it gives a bit of a directory listing that is garbled, and then the rest of the directory listing is fine. Sometimes it goes to track 0 and sits there and flashes and says drive not ready. So let's switch it on and see what it does this time. Power the drive up, and then I'll power the 128 up. Okay, so we've got the power light on and the drive light flashed and went off. That's a normal startup. The drive is currently not spinning. There's a slight hum off the transformer, but the drive is not spinning. Okay, so power up the 128. Now this time the drive attempted to read the disk and the drive light is flashing. And there we are. There's no disk in the drive even, and it gives us a 51 overflow in record error. If I put a known good disk in, and this is the Commodore 128 Diagnostics disk, and I know this is a working disk, and let's try and read the directory. Flashing light. 51 overflow in record. Now I believe this is a 1541 formatted disk. I've got nothing to suggest that it isn't, so it would read on any drive. Now this is a 1571 formatted disk, so it's formatted double-sided. Let's see if it will read this. Okay, the drive light is on, it's gone away, it's done something, it moved the heads, but the drive light has stayed on, the motor is still running, and it's sulking, the computer is locked up. In the words of the prophet, let's remove the disk. I think I'm going to have to reset the computer. Right, that's done what appears to be a normal startup. Yep. 00 OK 00. Let's try the diagnostics disk. Let's do a reset. That appears to be reading normally. And yes, you've got booting 128 factory test. Let's go through some of this. So sometimes it works, but now it seems to have stopped. I've got some diagnostics we can go through. With the schematic, what we've got is, this is the read-write hybrid, which is the big black thing. This is the WD1772. It's labelled as a 1770. In this machine, it's a 1772. And then the 64H156, which is a gate array, and 6522. These are the main protagonists, shall we say, in this problem, with some of the logic in between also contributing. Now this is U13. This is exclusive NOR gate, I believe, and this is one of the possible areas of problem. So U13, this is basically one of the access control signals. So there's a line coming out of this chip and a line coming out of this chip goes into here, and that determines whether it's going to attempt to read from the disk. Green LED steady on and spindle motor runs all the time. No movement of the stepper motor at turn on. No drive access locks up computer. That is clearly not happening, but I have seen this give problems. That feeds into U8, which is just a NOT gate. Normal looking startup, computer resets drive, but no access drive not ready error. Again, that's kind of sort of happening, but sort of not happening. So unfortunately that doesn't really give us an immediate and incontrovertible clue to what the problem is. Check for logic low at pins 12 and 13 of U13. Let's reset the drive because it's still looking at that. So U13 pin 12. You can see there, that's the logic low. Pin now look at that, it read it perfectly. Let's do it again. So, pin 12, pin 13, pin 14 is logic high, that's VCC, and pin 11, which is the output of those, is also high, which is correct. Now I've had an instance when that was not correct, so see, now it's working. Why is it working? Is it working because I put the probe on this pin? Is that what made it start working? Because that could mean that could that could signal that this chip is faulty, or possibly this chip is faulty because the output of that goes into this. What we can also check is that there's data coming out of the hybrid circuit. So that comes out, data comes out on pin 18. Pin 18, we should see data. And yes, we do see data coming out of pin 18. That will go back to not reading in a bit. There we go. So, we're getting data out. At the moment it seems to be working. There's not really a lot we can do when it's working. I think what I'm going to do is to unsolder a couple of these chips and put them into sockets, because I think one of them has to be faulty. It has to be intermittently faulty or temperature relatedly faulty. They don't appear to be. That one's quite warm but not hot, and that doesn't affect reading. This affects 1571 mode, I think, more than anything. This one, I believe, 6522, this one I believe controls the serial port. This one is the big gate array. This one is the data coming out of there. That's the CPU. That's the controller, disk controller chip. Now, I do suspect that to some extent, and it might be good to put it in a socket, because I have got a replacement and I can just try a different one in there. I can't immediately try new versions of these logic chips because I don't have replacements for them, so I think I'm going to do that. And that transformer is starting to buzz a little too loudly for my liking, so let's turn him off. And he's getting kind of warm. Let's take off this one and this one. It goes from pin 10. Pin 10 is DAL5. Okay, pin 28, that. So let's put a new socket in here. So we need to put a bodge wire between that and that. You'd never even know it was there. Okay, so let's put him in. Okay, I've put these 3 chips into sockets. Let's see if that has now made a difference, because that has affected obviously the connections. Let's plug it all back together. Okay, it's back together. We've got these 3 chips socketed. There is a bodge wire on the back because, I'll show you that. There we go, because I did manage to break one of the traces. But let's see what we have going. Power on. Light comes on, light goes out. The motor is still running. It resets. It attempts to read the disk. There is no disk in there. 51 Overflow In Record. Okay, so whatever we did, we have not fixed it. Let's put the disk in the drive. Overflow In Record. And that time it partially read it. Okay. Disk ID mismatch. Right, okay, I'm going to try this I've unplugged the drive. This is a replacement WD1772. Because I do suspect the original one. Right. Okay, now this has got the replacement 1772 in it. Immediately that's working. Let's put the other disc in. This is 1571 formatted. At least I think that was 1571 formatted. That might have been the unformatted one. Let's try this one. And it says test TA 1328 blocks free. So that is a 1571 formatted disc and it has read it. Let's see if it will format. Comma, I think it's ID, let's call it TT. Are you sure? Yes. I just realised that none of these cameras actually show the screen. There we go, it's not brilliant, but it's something. Okay, well it seems to have finished, but it's not giving the directory back. It's not giving the computer back. So there's still something wrong. Now if I that hasn't fixed it, it hasn't gone away. I think we're back to looking at these logic chips and possibly some of these others for which I don't have replacements. The saga continues. Tune in next time. If you've enjoyed it, please hit like. If you want to know whether we ever do actually solve this problem, then hit subscribe and let's see you in the next video. See ya.